on a friendly Milwaukee street.
Everybody played till the streetlights came on. Just always felt safe.
A schoolgirl takes the 3-minute walk home, alone.
But she never showed up. I tell my husband something's wrong.
A desperate search finds no answers.
Could have been some type of abduction. Some people had their suspicions.
When a gruesome discovery is made,
police say the body was found in a fetal position.
fear grips the neighborhood.
That was shocking.
That a killer lives amongst them.
I answered the phone and he said, I want to confess to a murder.
Police have confirmed that a predator is on the loose tonight, with a fourth body being found in the
Found dead at the scene, and the killer remains at large. The victim was beaten and left for dead.
And local residents have been urged to be vigilant.
It's a springtime, Tuesday morning, in Southside Milwaukee's Mitchell Street neighborhood.
It's kind of known around the Midwest for being the friendly city. The homes are all right next to each other, so you get to know your neighbors really well.
Everybody played till the streetlights came on, and you had to be on your porch, and yeah, I just always felt safe. Didn't really have a care in the world.
7th grader Margie Story has just spent the night at best friend Carrie Jopek's house.
Yeah.
Anything we did, we were doing it together.
You look great.
My mom never let me spend the night at anybody's house during a school night. That was like a big no. But because she lived across the street from the school, she let me.
You look great.
My mom took us shopping, and we bought the same outfit, which we never did, but we just thought it was the coolest thing.
Carrie lives with her mom, Carol, stepdad, Fred, and little sister, Maggie.
Carrie was a beautiful child. You know, she was artistic, and she was very good in school. She could do anything she wanted to.
Carrie and her mom are close, despite her sometimes willful behavior.
She was like the ruler of the house. She wanted her own way, and she got upset, you know.
That combative attitude creates tension with her stepfather, who's been a member of the family for 4 years.
Well, she used to tell him no, and you're not my dad, I don't have to listen to you, and stuff like that.
She'd argue with her stepdad, Fred, but that's what kids are, you know. They're more mouthy, more rebellious, and that was Carrie, but she was still a good person.
The block of 10th and Burnham is Carrie's stomping ground, and the girls know all the kids in the neighborhood. Best friend Robin Mant lives in the house opposite.
Robin was a friend of ours who also hung out with us in school. She had an older brother, Johnny.
It's just a 300-yard walk to Cardiasco Middle School at the end of the street.
We didn't have any of the same classes together, and when we all got to school, we went our separate ways.
When they meet again at lunchtime, Carrie appears agitated.
She was coming out of the lunch room. I was coming down the stairs. She was coming up, and she was upset. She said a boy threw paint on her shirt, and she got suspended because she hit him. And she was afraid to go home. She thought her stepdad would be upset. I didn't know if I should leave with her, go with her, or stay in school. At the time, I was just upset and worried for her. And I ended up staying, and she left.
Carrie's mom gets a call from the school. to inform her that her daughter has been suspended.
That over there, that brown building, that's the school she was in. She was in seventh grade. I figured she didn't need me to pick her up. They probably tease her, oh boy, you're mama's baby. You have to have mama take you by the hand and take you home. So I figured she'll be home on her own, you know. So I waited. And I waited. And I waited and looked out the door. No Carrie.
After hours of anxious waiting, Carol heads across the street to see if her daughter might be at Robin's house.
I went in the front door. I knocked at the door. Have you seen Carrie? No, I haven't seen her all day.
So she contacts Carrie's other friends.
She called my house and asked if I'd seen Carrie. I just thought she was at somebody else's house.
It's now 10 hours since Carrie was sent home from school.
11 o'clock, she still wasn't there. And no sign of Carrie. Nobody knew where she was. And I tell my husband something's wrong.
Carol quickly gathers friends to help search the block.
There was a lot of us talking to neighbors and asking if anybody had seen her. And I can still hear Carol calling Carrie's name.
A day after Carrie's disappearance, Milwaukee police open a missing persons case.
And I told him straight up, something's wrong. Something happened to her.
A lot of times when you're dealing with a missing teenager, one of the first steps you do is, if the family is not together anymore, is to check with the other side of the family. Maybe she didn't feel comfortable going to her own house. Maybe she went to her biological father's house.
Carrie's father also lives in Milwaukee and has regular contact with Carrie, but he was at work all day and hasn't heard from his daughter. So investigators focus on the last place she was seen.
Who was the last person that might have been with Carrie? Start with the school, because that was the last place she had went.
Her school is in walking distance from her house.
Police interview neighbors along 10th Street, but no one remembers seeing anything suspicious the previous day.
There's a lot of possible explanations. She might have had a boyfriend at the time that maybe her parents didn't know about. She could have been with him. Could have been a friend or a friend's family that she might have just been spending the night at the house.
Increasingly desperate, her family plastered the neighborhood with missing posters.
I knew something must have happened to her. She would have called me and let me know where she's at.
I remember her mom out looking for her daughter, flyers, standing on here asking anybody, you know, and crying. I remember that like it was yesterday.
Carrie's little sister Maggie was just 9 years old when Carrie disappeared.
This was the last picture of my sister Carrie Jopek, and this was the picture that was shown for when she went missing.
I went to Milwaukee Journal. Can you put her picture in the paper? And they said, oh, it should be on the front page. I prayed to God, said, please, God, let me find her.
But while the family's search for Carrie picks up pace, police receive a disturbing report, which suggests her stepfather may already know where she is.
Carrie's stepfather caught the eye of the investigators because he had laid a fresh concrete patio in his backyard.
Carrie never really talked about her stepdad to me, but I always wondered why she was so afraid to go home that day.
Maybe he was trying to bury the body underneath that concrete.
A week since Carrie Jopek went missing after leaving school, police are alerted to suspicious behavior from her stepfather.
He told me, he said, Dad, they called me in, asked me if I knew what happened to Carrie. Fred said, look, I would never harm my daughter. So I don't know where Carrie's at.
But his decision to lay the foundation for a new patio provokes intense scrutiny from investigators.
The investigation believed that possibly he would have buried Carrie underneath that concrete.
Using a ground-penetrating radar, they can see if anything suspicious is beneath the patio. But they find nothing, and the heat on Carrie's stepfather fades.
He considered Carrie as his daughter, you know. He said, I would never hurt her.
They interviewed myself and Carol. We were eliminated as any kind of suspects or anything like that for her being missing. They were doing their job and wanted to get everybody eliminated or found out who might be responsible for it. I mean, I didn't mind them doing their job, and I'm glad to get eliminated fast.
Fred and Carol are cleared, and their appeal for help from the local public starts to pay off.
There were several sightings of Carrie right away. See her walking on Mitchell Street. People saw her walking in different areas on the near south side. I think the family had a lot of hope because of all the calls that were coming in.
I thought I'd seen her too.
During a trip to the store just 3 blocks away, Carol thinks she catches a glimpse of her daughter's face.
She had the same color hair, and she's as tall as Carrie, and I called her. I said, hey, Carrie. But she ran away from me.
It is very frustrating. None of the sightings were ever determined to be Carrie.
With every sighting leading nowhere, investigators question Carrie's family again.
You could talk to the family members, look into who she's friends with, who maybe if she has a boyfriend.
Friends and family claim Carrie's not in a relationship, but her mom recalls one local boy who has shown an interest.
Johnny Matt, that one I was kind of worried about.
The 17-year-old brother of Carrie's best friend, Robin, has already left high school with a bad reputation.
John Mant is a local, I guess you could call him derelict. He dabbled with petty thefts. There was talk that he sold either marijuana or illegal pills. He would often give the younger girls and boys alcohol and cigarettes.
Carrie passes the Mant house on her walk to and from school. And shortly before her disappearance, she complained to her mom that John Mant had made a pass at her.
And she told me, Johnny's trying to get fresh at me. I said, why? He's going up my legs. I said, you know, Johnny's been in and out of trouble. I said, he could really hurt you, you know.
Detectives questioned John Mant about the disappearance of his sister's best friend.
They were interviewed, and the Mant family is cooperative in the beginning. She spent a lot of time at the Mant residence, along with a lot of the local neighborhood kids.
But on the afternoon of Carrie's disappearance, John says he was home alone and had no contact with Carrie.
In the end, it's hard to know where Carrie was when she went missing.
John Mant's bad boy reputation isn't enough to build a case on. So police let him go for now.
There really were no strong leads at the time. There was a lot of kind of just confusion, but then a lot of people were frightened in the neighborhood.
A month into the investigation, and Carrie's disappearance remains a mystery.
For instance, did you know that you could take in one of these great places?
Why would they bring a mannequin at my door and knock at the door and then leave? That was scary scene, and I called the police.
The sinister message seems to confirm that whoever is responsible for Carrie's disappearance lives close by, and it puts the neighborhood into a state of fear.
I remember seeing the news on Channel 12, and I remember I saw the picture of her missing, and I felt like that could have been me. That I became very nervous, very paranoid. I'm walking down the street and I always feel like someone's behind me.
Carrie's family is haunted by the feeling of a threatening presence lurking just beyond their front door. And no one is more frightened than little sister Maggie, who is still traumatized 33 years later.
I was young, and during the time that she was missing, I'd like try to sleep. I used to like see this like shadowy figure in the corner of the bedroom by the closet.
But Maggie had that premonition. That was kind of scary because we were afraid that someone would come to the house.
As the year draws on, the investigation fails to turn up any new leads.
There was nothing anymore. It was just like I'm waiting to see it on Unsolved Mysteries or something, and it never happened. I just remember being upset that she wasn't around anymore and missing her. And
a year and a half since Carrie Jopek vanished, builder Conrad Nezowitz moves onto South 10th Street.
Well, I became friends with the people who live upstairs here and started talking to our neighbor Donna, and she said that, asked me if I'd be interested in doing some work in her house. One of the projects that she had was tearing off the back porch.
The yard belongs to the Mant family, home of Carrie's friend Robin and her older brother John.
The porch ran all the way across the back of the house. And what she wanted was to just tear all that off.
Once the porch is removed, Conrad levels the earth beneath.
There was a hump on the ground, and she asked if I could just level it off. When I did that, that's when we smelled musty odors.
Handyman reporting to police he hit something while digging where an old section of back porch used to be. Police say the body was found in a fetal position, buried beneath 5 inches of dirt.
17 months after teenager Carrie Jopek went missing, skeletal remains have been unearthed at her friend Robin's house, just across the street from her home. Horrified neighbors gather in the man's backyard.
My husband and me went through the alley and toward their yard, and were watching them dig her up.
I just couldn't make myself believe that something like that would really be happening, or could be even her. So we just had to wait. That was kind of the harder part.
While investigators remove the body for analysis, the crowd of onlookers are shocked by one teenager's reaction.
John Mant, when the body was being discovered, got visibly sick, started to throw up, and just looked very upset.
Well, maybe he did have something to do with her, because why would he throw up, you know?
Everybody was saying right away that Johnny had something to do with it.
The day after the discovery of the body, Carrie Jopek's family are summoned to the coroner's office.
So I went down there with my husband.
Carol is shown the items of clothing recovered from the crime scene.
When I seen that jacket and I touched it, no, I said, oh my God. I knew that was Carrie. And that was it. I just lost it. I was down on my knees, you know. I don't think if I had my faith in my family, I don't think I could handle it.
Those are the same clothes we bought the day before. I just remember crying, going home and crying, and it was awful.
The 13-year-old girl was identified by her parents, the mother recognizing clothing, a jacket, pants, and shoes belonging to Carrie Jopek.
Now I know she's in God's hands, like I said, you know, God take care of her now.
The girl was last seen the day she was suspended from Kosciuszko Middle School.
Here's one of my best friends found buried under that porch. I just finding Carrie there was strange to me. I mean, just absolutely insane to me. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that she was in that house.
You never think it's going to happen to you, you know, or anybody you know. It always happens to somebody else, or in a different state or a different town, you know, not your town.
When they found her body, it had to be either Johnny or somebody in that house had to do it.
Neighborhood bad boy John Mant is brought in for questioning once again.
He denied knowing how Carrie's body ended up there, and ultimately asked for a lawyer, and therefore we could not talk to him anymore.
Without any evidence to charge him, police must once again let him go. A few days after the discovery of Carrie's body, the coroner releases her autopsy results.
The main cause of death was a broken C1 vertebrae, which is one of your top vertebrae in your neck. They called the break a whiplash injury, where the neck was snapped quickly.
With the body so decomposed, there's no telling what broke Carrie's neck, or whether her killer sexually assaulted her during the attack.
The questions that we have were, how did it happen? Who did it? Why would they do it? Who was all involved? What all went on over there?
But the crime scene fails to provide any of the answers.
The entire time I was thinking, somebody's covering something up. The smell, how is that covered? How is that, if she's buried right outside the bedroom window, how? I mean, that's not something that can be hid.
Their prime suspect remains John Mant.
The police believed the whole time that John Mant definitely knew something or knew what had happened to Carrie that day.
Carrie's neighbors have the same suspicions, and investigators catch on to a new rumor circulating among the local teens.
Somebody was saying, Robin Mann's brother, had her come over and party or whatever.
The rumors regarding the party surfaced after Carrie's body was found.
According to Playground Gossip, John Mant threw an impromptu party that afternoon while his mom was at work.
You had to find out who may have been at this party and then conduct those interviews. Some said there was a party. The majority of the people said there was not a party.
We weren't party people yet. We weren't into that kind of stuff. We were into girly things, makeup and hair, and I don't even think any of us drank. So I don't see her for any reason going to the party unless she liked one of the boys there or something. And a lot of people say that she might have had a crush on Johnny Mant.
John Mant insists the party never happened, and investigators can't find a witness who will contradict him.
We would need somebody that could give us details of what happened and what happened to Carrie and how her body ended up under the porch.
Then, a few days after Carrie's body is found, investigators get an intriguing new lead.
A neighbor had noticed a younger man on his knees where Carrie's body was found. He called the police and he said he was acting very suspicious.
You always think that it's some stranger that's going to cause harm, right? You never think that it's going to be someone you know, someone you care about, someone who lives not far from your own house.
A few days after the body of 13-year-old Carrie Jopek was unearthed under a neighbor's porch, a witness reports a young man acting suspiciously at the crime scene.
The neighbor knew that this was Jose Ferreira. All the kids in the neighborhood called him Junior.
Jose Ferreira lives 2 doors down from his friend, John Mant.
The family knew Jose, but not very well. Just knew him to be a kid in the neighborhood. He was also a little bit older than Carrie. I believe 4 or 5 years older than Carrie.
Detectives question Jose, wondering whether his display of grief at the crime scene is evidence of guilt.
Jose Ferreira stated that he knew Carrie and that he was at the gravesite because he was paying her respect.
He just said he was sad.
Living 2 doors down from the Mant family, Jose would have been at Johnny's rumored party that afternoon. But like many of the kids on the block, he claims that the party never happened.
After Jose was interviewed, he was sent home. There was not enough evidence to hold him for Carrie's death, so yes, he was released. We had a body that was buried in the backyard of a residence and nothing else to guide us in the direction of where we needed to go next. The case once again goes cold, and we don't have any more leads to go off of.
Carrie's unsolved murder cast a heavy shadow over the neighborhood, especially for her family.
Carol, after they found her body, continued to live there because my brother-in-law didn't want to move from there. I couldn't do it. I don't even like parking my car across the street from it because it's just too many memories, bad memories there.
Over the following months, Carol sees less and less of Carrie's old friends.
Robin didn't come around. Margie, I didn't see her either. We didn't seem to talk to them and nobody anymore.
There is one friend of Carrie's who stays in touch. Jose Ferreira, who lives across the street. And over time, he and the family become close.
After my sister went missing and was found, he was always over. Every party or whatever we had, he was there.
He was very friendly. He played like us. We were playing dice together and stuff like that, you know. He was really friendly.
As the years pass, the 10th Street block continues to change. Robin and Johnny Mant move away from the house where Carrie's body was discovered. And her murder looks like it will stay unsolved.
I was just waiting to hear what might have happened, or I thought that all of this was going to be found out. Somebody was going to be caught. I just thought that it would all start coming together, and it never did.
I thought no one's gonna let me know who killed her. Every year came, nobody knew about what happened to Carrie. I thought we'd never know.
Carrie's family are left waiting for answers for 33 years.
Early in the morning, around 7:30 in the morning, a man called our newsroom. I was actually filling in, working the night shift, so working third shift in the overnight hours at the TV station. And I answered the phone, and he almost immediately said, "I want to confess to a murder."
"33 years after the unsolved murder of 13-year-old Carrie Jopek, a mysterious call comes into the newsroom of Milwaukee's WISN.
I answered the phone, and he almost immediately said, "I want to confess to a murder." I was skeptical, but as he started offering more details, it became clear that he might actually be telling the truth. That he didn't want to give his true identity, which again is strange given that he supposedly wanted to confess and ultimately knew he'd be going to jail for this. It was pretty clear to me what we should do, and that's just to notify police right away.
But shortly after his call to the newsroom, the anonymous suspect turns himself over to police.
The Carrie Jopek homicide was well known back in the 80s when it occurred. But you have to remember, this was now 32, 33 years later. We had to go get the file out of our cold case file and look it up.
Detective Jim Hensley sits down with the person who claims to be Carrie Ann's killer.
Almost immediately, he described the day that Carrie went missing. The Mant kids had a party during the day when their mother was at work. And Carrie was walking home and joined the party.
The confessor's name is Jose Ferreira. The childhood neighbor is now 54 and still lives in Milwaukee. Though he has no significant criminal record, Jose spent the years since Carrie's death battling addictions.
Jose said he had liked Carrie from afar. While he was at the party, Carrie approached him and asked him if he had anything to drink. He said he told Carrie he didn't, but he offered her some marijuana, which she accepted.
Hey, you want to go for a smoke?
He and Carrie walked to smoke the marijuana right at the threshold of the stairs that lead down into the basement. Jose described the basement of the house as being the makeout area.
I don't think so. Hey, I said let's go.
He said he was a young adult male, a lot of testosterone flowing, and I believe his quote was, "You're going down in the basement," and then pushed her. Her head hit the railing of the stairs and snapped backwards. He pushed her hair back from her face. He described her as being such a pretty girl. And then he actually described fondling her breasts.
But as he starts to touch her, Jose realizes Carrie is dead. Horrified by what he has done, he panics.
He thought about just running out of the basement and acting like nothing happened. However, he realized he's the last person to be seen with Carrie. He knew of this little area underneath the porch in the backyard of the Mant residence and decided he was going to bury her there.
A small door connects the basement to the area beneath the porch. With his friends still partying upstairs, Jose buries Carrie's body.
Before he left, he looked back and some of her hair was sticking out from the dirt. So he had to go back and kind of move the dirt around, which kind of shows that she was in a very shallow grave.
Detectives push Jose to reveal whether any of the other kids from the party helped to commit the crime.
Jose had claimed that he was the only one involved in the Jopek death.
believed him 100%. He may have mitigated a few of the details to make him seem less of a monster, but the vast majority of the account of what occurred, I believe him.
Knowing that he was a family friend and the lies that he told everybody, that was shocking.
Despite Jose's confession, his attorney advises him to plead not guilty, claiming the death was accidental.
It all came down to some circumstantial evidence that she was at this party, Jose was at this party.
Concerned that Jose's testimony, 33 years after the fact, may not be enough to persuade a jury of his guilt, the DA offers a plea deal.
Today, a judge said Ferreira will serve a max of 7 years in prison after pleading guilty earlier this year.
I can't take back how it happened. Sorry.
This has gone on for so many years, and we still don't have all of the answers.
I really don't think he was the only one involved in it, and I think others know of it, but he wants to claim it all himself and doesn't want to confess to anybody else helping him. What can you do?
Carrie's murder investigation is closed, but on 10th Street, her family can never escape the horrors of their ordeal.
We all miss her, especially Maggie.
I missed the most about her. Her smile, her fun when she was happy and playing around, giggling with her sister. And Carrie, we love you. Miss you.